There is a moment, and most of us know it, when you are standing in the middle of your life and you suddenly realize that something important is missing. Not a thing you can name right away, just a quiet ache, like a door somewhere inside you that was never opened. This is a story about that feeling, and about what happens when, after 40 years, someone finally turns the key. It was early October in rural Kentucky, the kind of morning where the fog sits low and heavy over the fields, and you can smell the damp soil before you even step off the porch. Raymond Cole, 67 years old, was on his knees in the backyard beside an old oak tree. He wasn't searching for anything. He was doing the hardest thing a man can do. He was saying goodbye. His dog, a 15-year-old beagle named Hank, had passed in the night. Raymond had raised that dog from a puppy. Through 2 knee surgeries, a divorce, a son who moved to Portland and only called on holidays. Hank had been there for all of it, so Raymond was digging. And that was when the shovel hit something solid. A dull, hollow thud. Metal on metal. He paused. He pushed the dirt aside with his bare hands. And there it was. A small tin box, rusted and sealed, about the size of a shoebox, sitting maybe 18 inches underground. Raymond just stared at it for a long moment. His hands were trembling, and he didn't yet know why. What was inside that box would not just open old wounds. It would rewrite everything Raymond Cole thought he knew about his own family, about a brother he hadn't spoken to in over 4 decades, and about a night in 1981 that changed all of their lives forever, a night that nobody ever talked about. And here is the thing that I want you to sit with as this story unfolds. The letter inside that box had never been delivered. It had never been read. It had been waiting in the ground for 43 years, waiting for Raymond to find it. Before we go any further, let me know in the comments where you are watching from. I would love to hear from you. And if you are new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of my upcoming videos, because if this story hits you the way it hit me, you are going to want to be here for more. To understand what that letter meant, you have to go back, way back, to a small farm outside of Harlan and Kentucky in the 1970s. Raymond Cole was born in 1957, the oldest of 3 children. His younger brother, Marcus, came along 2 years later in 1959, and then their sister, Donna, in 1963. Their father, Earl Cole, was a coal miner, a quiet, proud man who had strong opinions about loyalty, about work, and about family. Their mother, Ruth, was softer. She baked on Sunday mornings. She kept a garden. She wrote letters to cousins in Virginia and Ohio and tucked cards into the boys' lunchboxes on the first day of school every year. Raymond remembers those lunches even now. He told people about them. The smell of wax paper and peanut butter and a handwritten note that said something like, "You are braver than you know." That memory never left him. Growing up, Raymond and Marcus were close in the way brothers can be when they share a bedroom and a bicycle and a set of chores that never seem to end. Raymond was the responsible one. He did what he was told. He didn't question things. Marcus was different. Marcus had a restless energy that the farm couldn't contain. He was smart, the kind of smart that made teachers uncomfortable. He asked too many questions. He read books that nobody else in the family read. By the time Marcus was 16, he was already talking about leaving Kentucky, about college, about a world beyond the county line. Their father didn't like that. Earl Cole believed that a man's place was where he came from. You didn't run from your roots. You deepened them. And so the tension between Earl and Marcus grew, slowly, the way a crack in a foundation grows, quietly, underneath everything, until one day the floor shifts and nothing is level anymore. In 1979, Marcus left for college at the University of Cincinnati on a partial academic scholarship. It was the proudest moment of Ruth Cole's life and the most painful moment of Earl's. Earl didn't say that out loud, but Raymond saw it in the way his father's jaw tightened at dinner the night Marcus left. He saw it in the way Earl never once mentioned Marcus's name at the breakfast table after that, like saying it out loud would confirm something he wasn't ready to accept. Marcus called home every few weeks at first. Raymond would answer sometimes. They'd talk for a few minutes about nothing important, about the weather, about a ball game, about anything except the real things. Then the calls got shorter. Then they stopped altogether. By 1981, Marcus Cole had all but disappeared from the family's daily life. Raymond didn't know the full reason why. He just accepted it. He stayed on the farm. He took over more of his father's work as Earl's health declined. And he told himself that Marcus had made his choice, that some people just leave and don't look back. He believed that for a very long time. Here is what Raymond did not know. In the fall of 1981, Marcus came home. He drove the 4 hours from Cincinnati on a Friday night in October. Not because things were good between him and his father. They weren't. But because Marcus had found something out. Something about their father that shook him badly. Something he needed to tell Raymond face to face. Marcus arrived late. It was close to 9 at night. The porch light was on. Earl was still awake, sitting in the kitchen with a cup of coffee going cold on the table. What happened next, nobody fully talked about for decades. But neighbors, 2 houses over, said they heard raised voices that night. Earl's voice, low, hard, the way it got when he was past angry and into something colder. And a younger voice, which must have been Marcus. And then a door slamming, and then silence. Marcus left that night. He did not see Raymond. Raymond had been at his girlfriend's house that evening. He came home after midnight, after everything was over, after Marcus was already gone. Earl never told him Marcus had been there. Ruth never told him either. And so Raymond spent the next 4 decades believing his brother had simply cut the family off. No explanation, no goodbye, just gone. Think about what that does to a person. Think about carrying that for 40 years, believing that someone you grew up with, someone who shared your childhood, your memories, your mother's Sunday cooking, just decided one day that none of it was worth coming back for. Raymond grieved that, not loudly, not the way you grieve a death, but quietly, the way you grieve something you can't quite name. He'd see something funny sometimes and think, Marcus would have laughed at that. He'd drive past the old high school and remember the time Marcus talked his way out of a detention by writing a 3-page essay on why the punishment didn't fit the alleged crime. He'd think about him, and then he'd push it down, because what else do you do with a grief that has no funeral? Back to that October morning. Raymond carried the tin box inside and set it on the kitchen table. He made coffee. He sat down across from it like it was a person. He didn't open it right away. He just sat with it. The rust on the lid had sealed it almost completely, and he had to use a butter knife to work around the edge. Inside, wrapped in an old plastic bag that had mostly deteriorated, was a single envelope. White, now yellowed with age. No postage. Addressed by hand in handwriting, Raymond recognized immediately, because it was the same handwriting that used to appear on the pages of book reports he helped Marcus edit in middle school. Small and slightly left-leaning letters. The envelope said, "For Raymond, if he ever finds this." Raymond's hands were not steady when he opened it. The letter was dated November 3rd, 1981. Raymond sat at that kitchen table for a long time after reading it. The coffee went cold. The morning light shifted through the window, and when he finally put the letter down, he pressed both palms flat against the table and just breathed. The letter said this, and I want you to hear every word of it, because this is the part of the story that will stay with you. Raymond, I came home last month. Dad was there. I know you weren't. I want you to know that I didn't leave because I stopped caring about you. I left because of something I found out about Dad, something I can't put in a letter. I tried to tell him I was coming back to see you. He told me not to. He told me if I ever set foot on that property again, he would make sure I never worked in this county or any county near it. I know how that sounds. I know you might not believe me, but I'm asking you to believe me. I buried this where we used to play as kids because I didn't trust it getting to you through the house. If you find it, that means you're still there. That means you're still the one who stayed. I'm not angry at you for that. I never was. I just need you to know that I didn't abandon you. I was pushed out, and I have been waiting for a way back ever since. Your brother, Marcus. P.S. I'm in Columbus now. I work at a print shop on Broad Street. If you ever want to find me, start there. Raymond Cole sat in that kitchen for almost 2 hours. Then he got up, went to the desk in the back room where he kept old documents, and started looking. He found an address book his mother Ruth had kept. She had passed away in 2008 after a long illness, and Raymond had kept her things in a cardboard box under the bed in the spare room. He hadn't opened that box in years. Inside the address book, tucked between the pages under the letter C, was a folded piece of paper. On it, in Ruth's handwriting, was an address: Columbus, Ohio, Broad Street, and a phone number with a Columbus area code. Raymond stared at that paper for a long time. His mother had known. She had kept this. All those years, she had kept it and never told him. He did not know whether to feel betrayed or grateful. He still doesn't know, even now. He called the number that same afternoon. It was disconnected. He searched online for the print shop. It had closed in the early 1990s. He tried searching Marcus Cole in Columbus, Ohio, and got nothing useful. He called his sister Donna, who now lived in Lexington. When he read her the letter over the phone, she went very quiet. And then she said something that Raymond had not expected. "Raymond, I've been in contact with Marcus for the last 6 years." Raymond had to sit down again. Donna told him everything, slowly, carefully. She had found Marcus through a DNA ancestry website in 2018. He was living in Dayton, Ohio. He had been married. His wife, Carol, had passed away from cancer in 2016. He had 2 adult children, a son named Aaron and a daughter named Lee. He had never stopped wondering about Raymond. He had never stopped feeling the guilt of leaving without a real goodbye. He had asked Donna more than once whether she thought Raymond would want to hear from him. Donna had been afraid to push it. Afraid of Raymond's reaction, afraid of opening something that might not close cleanly. Now, here is where this story turns in a direction I did not see coming when I first heard it. And I want you to think about whether you see it coming either. Raymond flew to Dayton 3 weeks after finding that letter. He and Marcus sat across from each other in a diner called the Blue Moon off Highway 35, and for the first part of the conversation, they talked about nothing important. The way you do when the important things feel too big to start with. They talked about sports, about the weather, about their kids. And then Raymond asked the question that had been sitting between them since 1981. He asked Marcus what he had found out about Earl that was so bad it ended everything. And Marcus told him. In the spring of 1981, Marcus had been doing coursework for a history class that required him to research local land records in Harlan County. While pulling records at the county office, just routine research, not looking for anything personal, he found a document connected to their father's name. It was a legal record from 1962, a year before Donna was born. Earl Cole had another family. Not an affair, exactly. A common-law marriage that predated his marriage to Ruth. A woman named Sylvia Tanner in a small town called Benham, about 20 miles away. And a daughter. A girl named Patricia, born in 1960. Earl had financially supported Sylvia and Patricia quietly, through a separate post office box, for years. Marcus had confronted Earl about it the night he came home in October 1981. Earl had not denied it. He had told Marcus it was none of his business, that it was over, that Sylvia had moved away, and there was nothing to be done about it. And when Marcus said he was going to tell Raymond and Ruth, Earl had shut it down the only way he knew how, with a threat and a door. Raymond absorbed this slowly. He thought about his father, about the man who had drilled into his sons the idea that family loyalty was everything, about the man who never once mentioned the word regret in Raymond's presence. And he thought about the fact that somewhere, possibly, he had a half-sister. A woman named Patricia, who was now in her mid-60s. A woman who might not even know the full story herself. Raymond asked Marcus whether he had ever tried to find her. Marcus said he had looked briefly years ago. He found that Sylvia Tanner had passed away in 1998. He had not been able to confirm whether Patricia was still living or where she might be. He had felt that it wasn't his place to go further than that. But now, sitting across from Raymond in that diner, both of them with coffee going cold, they looked at each other, and without saying it out loud, they both understood. This was not the end of the story. This was the middle of it. I want to pause here for a moment and ask you something directly, because this is the part of the story where I think about my own life. Think about the people in your life who you have drifted away from. Not through any dramatic falling out, just through time, through busy years, through the slow accumulation of days where you meant to call and didn't, through the quiet, almost invisible ways that distance grows. If you found out tomorrow that one of those people had been carrying a letter for you for 40 years, a letter that said they never stopped caring, that they had tried to reach you, that the silence between you was never really silence on their end, what would you do with that? I think about that question a lot since I first heard Raymond's story. The reunion itself was not the dramatic, tearful Hollywood moment you might imagine. Raymond told me that. He said it was more like two old trees whose roots had grown back toward each other underground, slowly, without anyone watching. They sat in that diner for 4 hours. They drove to a park nearby and sat on a bench and kept talking. Marcus had Raymond's same tendency to go quiet when he was thinking hard about something. They had the same way of rubbing the back of their necks when they were uncomfortable. Raymond noticed that. It surprised him. How much of their shared DNA had survived 40 years of separation. They talked about their father, without anger, mostly. They talked about Ruth and what she must have known and why she kept what she kept. They talked about their children, about the years that were gone, about the years that were still ahead of them. And before Raymond drove to the airport that evening, Marcus said something that Raymond has repeated to other people many times since. He said, "I spent a long time being angry at the wrong thing. I was angry at you for not coming after me, but you didn't even know I needed you to." Raymond said he didn't have words for that. He just put his hand on his brother's shoulder, and that was enough. 3 months after the meeting in Dayton, Raymond and Marcus found Patricia. Her name was now Patricia Hargrove. She had grown up in eastern Tennessee, where her mother Sylvia had moved after leaving Benham. She had known about Earl Cole her entire life. Her mother had told her everything when Patricia turned 18. She had considered reaching out to the Cole family many times over the years, but had always held back, not wanting to cause pain, not knowing how she would be received. When she got a letter from Raymond, a real paper letter, handwritten, the old-fashioned way, she called Donna first to make sure it was real, and then she called Raymond. She told him that when she heard his voice, the first thing she felt was not joy exactly. It was relief, like she had been holding her breath for 60 years and could finally let it out. They met in person for the first time last spring at Donna's house in Lexington. Raymond, Marcus, Donna, and Patricia, 4 siblings, 3 of whom had grown up in the same house without knowing the 4th existed. Patricia brought photographs of her mother, Sylvia. Raymond brought photographs of Ruth. They spent the afternoon spreading them out on the kitchen table and looking at faces and piecing together a family history that had been deliberately fractured. There were tears. Of course there were tears. But Raymond said that what he remembers most from that afternoon is not the crying. It's the laughter. The way Marcus told a story about their father's old truck that made Patricia laugh so hard she had to put her coffee down. A laugh she had no way of knowing was almost identical to Marcus's own. A laugh that was, unmistakably, the laugh of someone who came from the same place. Raymond Cole is 67 years old. He spent 40 years carrying a grief that wasn't fully his to carry. A grief built on silence and secrets, and a father who believed the best way to control a story was to bury it. And in a very literal sense, that is exactly what happened. The letter was buried. The truth was buried. But here is what I keep coming back to, the thing I cannot shake when I think about this story. The letter survived. The tin box rusted. The address book yellowed. The phone number disconnected. The print shop closed. But the letter survived. The words Marcus wrote survived. And when the right person found them at the right moment, even 43 years too late, they did exactly what they were meant to do. So here is what I want to ask you. And I really do want you to think about this. I'd not just scroll past it. Is there a letter you have been meaning to write? Not literally, maybe, but a conversation you have been putting off, a person you have been meaning to reach out to, someone you lost touch with not because of anything real, but because life moved fast and the days kept coming, and you kept telling yourself there would be more time. There is something about Raymond's story that makes the idea of more time feel a little less reliable than it used to. Marcus buried that letter in the ground because he had no other way to reach his brother. You have every way. You have a phone in your pocket right now, and whatever happened between you and whoever you are thinking about in this moment, I promise you, the silence is heavier than the conversation. I promise you that. Raymond still lives on that farm in Kentucky. The old oak tree is still there. He visits it sometimes. He told me he doesn't think of it the same way anymore. It used to feel like the place where he buried his dog. Now it feels like the place where his brother came back. He said he likes to think that Hank had something to do with it, that maybe there are no coincidences, not really, that maybe the things we lose have a way of leading us back to the things we thought we lost forever. I don't know if that's true, but I think it's worth believing. What do you think? If you found a letter like this, buried in the ground, written by someone who loved you, sealed inside a rusted box, would you open it, or would you be afraid of what you might find inside? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story moved you, if it made you think about someone in your own life, someone you've been meaning to call, share this with them. Not as a hint, just as a reminder that some stories are meant to be passed along. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.